So my first question, Rajdeep, is to you. And the obvious question would be, Democracy's 11 does not have a female icon in it.
That's right. Thank you very much, first of all, Aparajita. And let me say that it's a great honor for me to be in the presence of Mithali and Veda. And you're absolutely right. If you look at this book and you look at the cover, you only see men. And the reason for that is I finished this book in the first week of July. And then somewhere in the middle of July on a Sunday, the men were playing against Sri Lanka and the women were playing against England. And for 5 hours, all I watched were the women playing. I didn't switch even once to the men. And I realized that day, and I rang up my publisher saying, can I now include a chapter on the women? And she said, now it's too late and you'll just have one token chapter. So I changed my introduction. So if you read the introduction of the book, I do mention what they achieved. And really, in a sense, what they achieved is symbolic of what this book is about. I, of course, looked at how barriers of class, how barriers of community, how regional barriers, how barriers from the time when in the 1930s, you had to be a prince to captain India, like Vizianagaram, not the best player in the country, not even good enough to play for India, but because he was the Maharaja of Vizianagaram, he was made the captain of the Indian team. From that age to today, Indian cricket has, in my view, democratized itself, has become a meritocracy, and I think the two women here in front of you are a representative of that. They also have broken a major glass ceiling. Because when I was growing up, we were told women can't play cricket. I was once in the nets when Diana Edulji was bowling, and I was told by one of my fellow cricketers, whatever you do, don't get out to Diana. And promptly I got out to her. And he immediately turned to me and said, यार तू लड़की के सामने भी खेल नहीं सकता. And I think from that era, and I quote Jhulan Goswami in this book, where she said that, when I was playing cricket, my parents once told me, why are you playing so much of cricket? Who will marry you? Now, these are stars with agents and sponsors and everything else. The world has changed. Now, Jhulan will definitely get hundreds of people lining up to marry her. There is a biopic coming out on her. So, dunya badal gayi hai. And thank God for that, and congratulations for what you achieved. That a day would come where we would not watch the men playing, or the men in blue as they call them, but watch the women in blue, I think was unheard of. And the fact that that has happened, I think, is a tribute to the fact that sport can overcome boundaries that maybe even society cannot. So, yes, I admit that I should have had more women cricketers as I had men. Maybe if I write another book, I'll come to Mithali and Veda and we'll have a women's democracies 11 next time.
So everybody knows about the iconic television journalist that you are and a wonderful author. Not many people know that you've played first-class cricket for Oxford, and the visiting team led by Imran Khan, as you've said in your book, in 1987, Abdul Qadir got you out for 2. So tell us about your journey from a cricketer to a journalist.
Look, my book also started with the central premise that I always wondered what was it about this sport that my father could play it with such outstanding ability. My father was trained by a village tailor. My father is still today the only Goa-born cricketer to play for India. And he grew up in Portuguese-ruled Goa. He was taught by the village tailor. He came to Mumbai only at the age of 16 and played this sport for India for more than a decade. And I always wondered, yaar, Pitaji ke paas itna talent hai, why don't I have it? Surely cricket must run in the blood. So I eventually realized that politician ka beta pradhan mantri ban sakta hai. Film star ka beta, Jitendra ka beta, Abhishek Bachchan, all can become film stars. But to play cricket, you need something unique called talent. And either you have it or you don't. And that particular match against Pakistan when I played in 1987 for combined universities, I was out for 2 to Qadir. And as I was leaving the ground, Salim Malik, who was a Pakistani player, turns to me and says, "Yaar, tu India se aata aur spin bowling bhi nahi khel sakta." That's when I realized I had to do something else with my life. Now, I have often realized that if you fail at everything else, the one profession that is always there for you is journalism. जब आप जब आप क्रिकेट नहीं खेल सकते, you need talent to play cricket. To do journalism, you don't need talent. You need a bit of curiosity. You need other qualities which maybe I had. But I think the important point is cricket is not dynastical. You cannot play cricket simply because your father played the game. And in our society, we have business families, we have political families, we have film families. There is nepotism everywhere. But at least today you can say with conviction that no one who gets picked for India gets picked because connection है. हमारे society में सब जगह connection चलता है. Connections no longer work, at least when you are playing for India. It may work in local matches in under 19, but if you want to play for India, you have to be one of the 11 best cricketers to play for the country. So I thought it was an opportunity to celebrate that and to ask myself that question that I always asked as a young boy. How come my father, who was taught by his village tailor, could go on to represent the country and I had the best facilities and I could not? And I used to ask my father this, and my father would always say, Rajdeep, the fact is, once you are on the field, I can't come there to make runs for you. Runs tumhi ko banane hai, you will have to make them. I can help you, but you will have to make the runs. I think that is what separates cricket and sport in general from other activities. It is truly meritocratic. It is not dynastical. It is not driven by family or privilege. I mean, that is why Mahendra Singh Dhoni, the son of a water pump manager, can become this great cricketer, while the son of a test cricketer is busy writing books and remaining a journalist.
My next question is to Mithali. 18 years career, Padma Shri, world record holder, the highest run getter. What next? And also tell us about captaincy and then being dropped from captaincy and then playing under two other captains that you'd played before and who had played under you. And then again becoming captain and then taking the side to the World Cup final. Tell us about how you sort of transform from a player to a captain and then again transform from a captain to a player. How do you do it?
Well, I think I've never seen myself when I represent the country as a player. When I made my debut, it was very important for me to cement my place. The debut matches are always filled with nervousness, and obviously once you wear on the India jersey, it's full of excitement. But again, when you think about the long term, that you want to be a player who wants to play for a long time, have a long career. So you'll have a different perspective, different motivation and inspiration. So it's been a long journey I can say that it's a roller coaster ride. It's been good times. I had some very memorable wins as a captain. I had some very good innings as a player. And there were times when, we were criticized a lot for losing the 2013 World Cup in India and the T20 World Cups. But if not for those losses, probably I wouldn't see the success as a player and a captain. And the transition, well, when I led India in 2005, I was a rookie captain. I wasn't matured. I was just 21, 22-year-old. I had a lot of ex-captains, senior players under me. From then on, when I continued to represent till 2008 as a captain, I've seen the transition in the team. It helped me to even grow as a player, I would say, because when I got captaincy, I was very young as a player too. I wasn't as experienced player as I am now. So captaincy and as a player, it is a parallel growth that I had. And I know one thing which my dad told me is that you are taking captaincy from someone. Tomorrow you have to give it to somebody else. You're not born with that tag. So I've never have this attachments to any post. The only thing that I know that I'm best at is my skill as a batter, and that nobody can take away from me.
So in 18 years, what changes have you seen in women's cricket?
Well, for starters, there have been a lot of changes. That the one big change is that we are under the BCCI umbrella, because coming under BCCI has done a lot of good for women's cricket, for women cricketers. When I made my debut in 99, my dad has to run about for sponsorships. He literally had to ask for sponsors from his bank, from my school, to see that I represent India, because when we were under WCI, the board wasn't very financially sound. So we used to play international series once in 2 years, once in 3 years. Coming under BCCI, that is looked after. We don't have to run about for sponsorship deals to fund ourselves for tours. We play a domestic structure as well, organized by BCCI, because we get to play in the best of grounds. Earlier, I have played a lot of, big tournaments, national tournaments for women, where you select the Indian team in these grounds, school grounds, or even the parks. I've played in those facilities where, as a player, when you're trying to prepare for an international tour, you want to train on turf wicket. But I have trained on matting. I've gone and played on a turf wicket. So that was the situation back then. With BCCI, even say under 19 tournaments, under 16 tournaments are held in good grounds. So that gives more opportunity for young girls to aspire to play for India at that level, when you get paid, when you're well looked after, when you travel by air, and you're well looked after by the association. I think a lot changes in the mindset of a young player to, aspire to play for India.
So times have really changed from sleeper class to business class.
Yes, I definitely has to say, as an India player, I've traveled unreserved in a train from Hyderabad to Delhi to tour England in 2002 when I broke the world record. So that was before I toured England. But today, I think these girls are very lucky to travel by business class.
So Veda, tell me something about yourself in terms of the new Indian women cricketer, the new style of batting, coming there right in the middle and just going hammer and tongs from the first ball. How do you do it, and how do you get the confidence to keep doing it over and over again?
When I started playing cricket, I was a very short kid. I was very, puny. I mean, if you look at me, you couldn't think that I would hit sixes or even cross the 30th for that matter. But when I attended the first ZCA camp in 2010, there was a coach named Apurva Desai. He came to me and he said, "Look, there is 30 girls, but amongst all the 30, I feel you've got that extra second when you bat. And you really need to focus, and you need to think big." I think that is somewhere helped me in that 30 days of camp. He always was right there telling me that you are going to play for India. And that is where my transformation started. Because immediately after ZCA, I was picked for NCA. And being picked for NCA at the age of 18, 17, and with all the stars at that time, because 15 of them were the current India players and the rest 15 were picked up from the zonal matches. I think the whole new thing in me started then, because until then I never thought I would play for India. I was just playing for the fun of it, and only thing I was happy about was that I was not supposed to go to school. I used to get leaves from my principal. So that was something which fascinated me and kept me going. But having been played with them, I came to a realization that if I can make it into the 30, I surely can play for India. And that season, I really scored a lot of runs. And immediately, within a year, I played for India. And that's where I started having one thought in my mind, that if I'm going to play cricket, I'm going to play one sort of cricket. So I'm going to be aggressive. That is something which I started doing at the domestic level. And to get that into the international level, and especially in the World Cup, was something I was not playing the first 3 games. So of course, coming into the 4th game, there was a lot of pressure on me. Being one of the cricketers who've been playing for so many years and not being picked in the 11, it actually is very upsetting. And when I played against Sri Lanka, I was just doing something. I don't know what I was doing. I even got a thing from the coach outside, like, what are you doing? Because I'm trying to connect the ball. I was not connecting the first 15 balls. And it was looking really odd for me as well, because I'm trying to score runs, as well as I needed to score that many runs that I could cement my place in the next few games. And then I just removed everything from my mind. Like if I'm going to play the next game, it'll happen. You don't have to think about future. So you just have to play your game. That's where I just thought about playing my game. And I think somewhere down the line in the World Cup, I could play an innings which helped the team go ahead. And I think I'm really glad that I could do it.
The innings against New Zealand was basically the coming of age innings for you. From 2011, when you debuted, till now, this was probably the inning that was a standout innings because this was a very crucial game for you all to get into the semi-finals. So as I have seen you, and I remember you and you say that you can't hit long, but the first impression I have of you is being coach of UP and seeing you hit our girls all on the leg side. Everything on the leg side.
I mean, yeah, even if you look at it now, like, I'm more of a bottom-handed player. I do play drives, but even when I play drive, it's not like a textbook drive how she plays, with the elbow coming up and all that stuff. I fractured my finger a month back. So I was just coming out of an injury and I called my coach and like, you want to see top hand drive from me? Like I'm doing it now because I couldn't hold the bat. So I think I've always been someone who's a bottom-handed player, and I don't mind as far as the run comes from anywhere. So even if it's only leg side, I'm fine with it.
But another interesting thing that people find very enjoyable are your YouTube videos. The team dancing and you always getting into a jig and getting everyone else, everybody to dance. Do you do that often?
Yeah, we do it quite often.
You and her were dancing in the World Cup. Caught on
Yeah.
camera.
Actually, yeah, we do it quite often because I'm someone who loves to dance. So if there is any song or anything, the music starts playing, I just start moving. And she has it in her of a dancer that comes naturally for her. So I think, when off late, since we've played along with each other for a long time, because we play for Indian Railways and we play for Central Zone. So there is a period where like 7-8 months we're traveling together. So there are songs, we just want to trigger ourselves up before any game or something. So especially since the bus rides are like too long, I think that's where the retro music comes into play. Yeah, especially the 80s and 90s. I mean, she was the one who introduced me. I was not even born. I didn't know anything. So she gets me to all those Pappi Lahiri and Usha Uthup songs.
The next question is to Rajdeep. Rajdeep, you say that in the introduction of the book, you say that you chose the title Democracy is 11, an anecdotal mini portraits of 11 cricketers who, in their unique ways, represent the universal and pluralistic appeal of the sport that cuts across caste, class, and religion and region. What unique appeal, according to you, each one of them brought that you included them in the book?
Look, frankly, the choice of the 11 cricketers is very personal. It starts with my father, because as I said, in a sense, he was the inspiration for the book. But it actually looks at cricketers who, in their own way, contributed in their generation to taking the game forward. Mansoor Ali Khan Patodi came from a very privileged background. But he features in my 11 because I think Patodi, in a way, also had to change himself and also played an important role in welding people from different backgrounds into a cricket team. People in the 1950s and 60s saw themselves as first from Mumbai, then you're from Bangalore, then you're from Chennai. So I think Patodi came from a privileged background but brought people together. Bishan Singh Bedi was the anti-establishment hero. He was the first player to talk about player power. Sunil Gavaskar, I believe, for an entire generation was the ultimate middle class hero. Sunil Gavaskar was, the kind of person with whom you would put a fixed deposit. In the 1970s, no one thought of investing in the stock market. You always invested in fixed deposits. Sunil Gavaskar was like a fixed deposit. You knew that once he was on the crease, he would bat for long enough and score runs. Then you had Kapil Dev. Kapil Dev came just the opposite, came from Haryana, so broke the monopoly of the big cities. Nobody thought India could produce a fast bowler. Here comes Kapil Dev with all the excitement and all the energies of someone who's come from outside the big cities, and was the most exciting cricketer I think India had ever seen. Then you have a Mohammad Azharuddin, who's a controversial choice in my book, but in my view was an important figure in the era in which he played. In an era where India was getting divided on lines of religion, Mohammad Azharuddin was a symbol that you could be led by an Indian Muslim with great dignity. Then you come to Sachin Tendulkar, who is the first satellite hero. The satellite TV age needed a hero. And as one advertiser told me, Sachin Tendulkar was the kind of person every mother wanted to take home. And they wanted to take home, and plus there was satellite TV. So he was the hero of the satellite age. You have Saurav Ganguly. The Bengalis thought that cricket was never their game. They loved cricket, but they wanted their own hero. And suddenly you had in Saurav Ganguly someone who sort of inspired a revolution that went beyond Mumbai, and he also played an important role after match fixing to somehow restore faith in the game. Then you have Rahul Dravid, who I call the conscience keeper. I mean, Rahul Dravid is the one person I have met who's untouched by this whole world of glamour and glitz, even though he lives in this era. From there you go to Mahendra Singh Dhoni, who to my mind is the ultimate revolutionary. What Mahendra Singh Dhoni has done is quite incredible. Every young boy today in a small town can dream big because Dhoni is there. Dhoni has enabled the young Indian to dream big. So you needed him. In the 1970s when we defeated England, 6 of the 11 players were from Mumbai. Now when we are the number 1 team in the world, 8 of the 11 boys are from small towns. So it's the Dhoni, and it's not just cricket. You look at today IITs, IIMs, medical exams. Who are the boys, the IAS? It's not about St. Stephen's anymore. Now it is about the boys from the small town. So I think Dhoni, in my view, is the most critical figure in a way in this democratic revolution. And finally, you have Virat Kohli, who's a bit like the Veda Krishnamurthy when it comes to the male. I won't say Veda is the Virat, but Virat is the Veda. In a sense, he plays with this kind of freedom. I don't know whether she has tattoos. I know he has. Yeah, she also has tattoos. See? So this is the new tattoo generation, in your face, aggressive, plays with a freedom. So I think from the era, over the eras, starting with my father's era when they were, she mentioned unreserved rail compartments. In 1952, the Indian team went to West Indies in a banana boat. They went by boat and they were 3 to a room. So even they had to go through hardships. I asked Chandu Borde, who was my father's teammate in 1962 to the West Indies when they were thrashed 5-0 by the most fearsome West Indian side. What did you do at night? You all were all 21, 22-year-olds. You must have had a great time in the West Indies. He said, what great time. All night we were rubbing Amrutanjan because we had no doctor. The thigh pads were so poor that every time the ball hit the thigh, their thighs would hurt the whole night. Even the pads were not good enough. So he said, all we were doing, we were rubbing Amrutanjan on each other. Now from that generation to today, where players get paid 100 crores for a bat contract, where you have the best of facilities, you have a helmet, I think the sport has changed and good luck to it. I think long before Mithali, there was my friend Diana Edulji. And she told me that they had to often sleep on the floor, even in national championships. From that era to business class is a good change. So I wanted to document this change. I could have chosen 11 other cricketers. In fact, my regret is that I didn't choose, let's say, an Eknath Solkar is my 12th man. But his father was a groundsman. And from a groundsman's son to become this fantastic player for India, I think, sport does that. Sport can transform lives, it can empower people, and it does it on the basis of merit. What I really like is all these cricketers. Mithali is the world's number 1 batsman because she has the talent to do it. She has not come in because her father is a cricketer or anything else. Veda is achieving what she is because they are genuine heroes. And I think today, let me just say this at the end. I am a political journalist. And for the last 25 years or 28 years, I have tracked these politicians. And they are basically people who are living by, many of them, majority of them are living by divide and rule, by corruption, by stealth, by doing all the terrible things that none of us should do. They only give us pravachans. On the other hand, I believe cricketers are genuinely inspiring. So after having covered them for so many years, I thought, let me at least feel good about life. I have felt bad for the last 28 years covering these politicians. I want to feel good, so I want to be in the presence of cricketers. That's why I decided, let me write about 11 good people.
The book basically deals with transformation of cricket. from being a colonial sport to now being a sport of mass appeal, also deals, do you think that with the IPL now coming in, do you think cricket has now finally come to a full circle also with their World Cup, their team reaching the World Cup final? Do you think that, the pool of talent coming in from local places or remote places and local boys which we hadn't even heard of who have no background, do you think cricket has now finally come a full circle?
Oh, absolutely. I think there were I mentioned in the book four major transformations. One is 1971, when we defeat England and West Indies for the first time. It gives Indians a sense of self-respect. Then in 1983, lifting the World Cup. Color television comes into our lives for the first time, and there is Kapil Dev Da Jawab Nahi, who lifts this World Cup and excites lots of Indians. Then the World Cup comes to India in 1996, and suddenly sponsorship starts coming. There is the wars between Pepsi Cola and Coca-Cola, who will sponsor the World Cup. And then you have the IPL. The moment the IPL comes, suddenly the sport now becomes lucrative, not just for the 11 who play for India, but for dozens of people who can dream of playing for a franchise. Last year we had this story of this boy T. Narayan, whose father runs a chicken shop, but got a 3 crore contract. You have the stories of boys who are now coming from low income groups, but who in one generation or in 1 year actually, their lives are being transformed by the IPL. So you're absolutely right. I think the world has come full circle with the IPL. Previously, the foreigners who didn't want to come and play for India, play in India. The Australians never played in India for 10 years in the 1970s because they thought India was a land of mosquitoes. That we don't want to stay in these Indian hotels, terrible beds, mosquitoes. Now they're all rushing to come only to India. They want all kinds of contracts. And I am hoping that next year's IPL will have the men playing at 8 o'clock, but will also have the women playing at 6 o'clock. So that there should be a women's IPL and a men's IPL. That, to my mind, Australia is already doing it. In Australia, you have a women's IPL and
the Big Bash.
You have the Big Bash, but the women also play on the same day, I think, and the men also play. I am hoping for the day when the women's IPL will also take place along with the men, and I will enjoy both equally. So I think the day is not far. The day, she's a star today, she's a star. I wouldn't have imagined 5 years ago also that women's cricketers would be invited to such a gathering, would be, felicitated. I think it's a great sign. Yesterday, a woman became Miss World. I mean, I've always believed women make better journalists, women make better lawyers, and now increasingly I'm coming to the conclusion women make better cricketers also.
Veda is going for the Big Bash this year. Veda, tell us about your Big Bash. When are you leaving and what can we expect?
Yeah, I'm leaving on the 28th of this month. I'm actually not playing the whole of Big Bash because I have to come back for the India series where we go to South Africa Jan end. When I got an offer, I was really excited because I wanted to be a part of the Australian cricket atmosphere because they are someone who play very fearless cricket, and for them, team is everything. And being with my team, I think it's like a family for us. And I want to be a part of it, just to experience how things are done. And secondly, playing for a franchisee league is actually it's a different thing, because when you play for India and when you play for the domestic teams here, you know how things work and you are sitting in a comfortable position. But to go there and play for a franchisee league, and I don't know anybody in the teammates, so I'll be meeting everybody for the first time. So I think it's a bit of a challenge for me to go and adapt there. But at the same time, I'm happy that I'll be gaining something from there, so I can get it back to India. And even if we could apply one or two things, would be good for India cricket. As well as one thing is, it's a huge pressure for me because along with me, Harman also is going for Big Bash. So I think both of us will be the face of Indian cricket. And if we do well, that's where we'll get more opportunity for our cricketers, the young cricketers who are playing in, and they're really good. To go and play in such leagues, it's a huge experience.
And make a case for women's IPL also.
Maybe.
So women's IPL will definitely happen. I am 100% sure that if not next year, in a couple of years it will happen. Because, at the end of the day, it's about sponsorship. And there are so many women products now out there. All these women, companies directed with their products at women, if they don't support the IPL, I don't know who will. So I think it will happen. This is why we have moved from the age of scarcity to a market economy. Once you're in a market economy, we are all looking for new role models, new heroes. You know, I have wondered often, how did the cricketers Aparajita play in the era when there was only radio commentary? I asked this to Bishan Singh Bedi. Bishan Singh Bedi told me, I learned left arm spin listening to commentary. I said, sir, but there was no visual image. He said, nay, I was imagining what they were doing. You know, it's quite incredible. People saw photographs of their heroes and they learned the game. Today they have video replays, they have computers. The world has changed. So I think with this changing world, as women's cricket changes, as the sport changes, this IPL is, as you rightly said, the full circle. Now you will have to, in a sense, be more inclusive in any sport you play. I mean, look at what is happening in Kabaddi. You know, Kabaddi till the other day was seen, yaar, ye rural sport hai, rustic sport hai. Now Kabaddi has also become a glamorous sport. Badminton is a glamorous sport suddenly. So I think with the market economy coming in, I think sport today is now it's a brand. Mitali Raj is a brand. Veda Krishnamurthy has become a brand. Everyone wants to identify with a brand. They're not just sports persons, they're also marketable brands. And that's where I think this sort of change has taken place in the sport.
Mithali, from the days where you would come after winning a series and nobody would be there to welcome you at the airport, to the frenzy that you got, to the frenzy that you received when you came after the World Cup final, and then going on to being on the Vogue cover with Shah Rukh Khan and Neeta Ambani. What's the journey been like after the World Cup final?
Well, when we were runners-up, even in 2005, under WCAI, so when we came back, there were only a couple of reporters at the Bombay airport and few family members. So that was the reception we got when we were runners-up, even in 2005 World Cup. And I expected the same kind of response this time too. When we lost the World Cup, obviously we traveled in 2 batches, so I was in the second batch. And we were completely shattered for the fact that we lost a match which actually was our match. And I just thought, like, we already planned, like, you know, we have to somehow go on a holiday and repair our broken hearts. So we planned, few of us got together, planned a holiday, and when we came back, I didn't expect, the first thing I sensed was that everybody within the airport were all around us. We had a lot of security people. That was the first shock that I got. I didn't expect so many commandos and security personals around. And when I just came out with the manager, with the team manager, I only could see the flashes, those lights, there were so many of them, I couldn't step 1 foot forward. And all the girls, I should admit, they were all nervous, because for all of us, it was a completely, I would say, it was a shocking thing to see so many people at, say, 8 o'clock? 8 o'clock in the morning. And they're like, Didi, what is this? Ye kya hai? Hum jayenge kya bahar? Then we took another tour. We went inside. We were trying to get out from the other entry, but then I think obviously the journalists, the reporters sensed that they were at that entry also. So the bus was just few meters away. It took me close to 45 minutes to walk from the entry to the bus. And since then, life has been chaotic, but I loved it. I'm loving it for a fact that the sport that has given me so much. I never imagined that I would one day see this transformation in women's cricket, where people now include women's cricket as a part of discussion when they talk about cricket. And it is just not limited to men's cricket and the whereabouts about men's cricket.
I believe you've been literally living out of a suitcase.
Well, it took me 2 months to unpack my suitcase. But the Vogue cover shoot, even that I didn't expect that it would make such a huge, huge news, yeah.
I was in Chennai about a couple of months ago, and the moment she came in, and I think she had injured her foot or something, so she came in on a sort of stretcher kind of thing. You had a couple of months ago some function in Chennai. The entire audience stood up to clap for her. Now, I couldn't imagine this would even happen a couple of years ago. A women's cricketer is coming on stage and the entire audience stands up to applaud her. So I think this is the transformation. I think for years we thought women can't do wrestling. Then came the Fogart sisters. We thought women can't play badminton. Then came Saina Nehwal and PV Sindhu. We thought women can't play cricket, and then come all these girls. So I think it's also empowered a lot of women out here. I made the mistake on Facebook of saying Mitali Raj's defense reminds me of Gavaskar. So my daughter immediately said, what do you mean? You should say Gavaskar's defense reminds you of Mitali Raj. So, suddenly I found that my young daughter was feeling empowered. I think this is what happened. Harmanpreet Kaur played that innings. And suddenly, I still remember that day, I had to go for the 9 p.m. news. And as she started batting, I go to the news at 10 minutes to 9 to get ready. I kept telling my producer, 1 minute more, one more over. Because she was just playing the kind of cricket that you imagined only Kapil Dev would play. She was hitting the Australian bowlers for sixes. Now, I never thought, honestly, and this sounds terrible, I never thought women could hit a cricket ball so hard. And then I see Harmanpreet Kaur hitting the ball so hard and I realized how wrong I was. And our entire newsroom had come to a halt. Now to keep an Aaj Tak newsroom to a halt is very difficult because everybody makes lots of noise. But the entire newsroom was silent watching this girl play this incredible innings. It was transformative. So I think what you've really seen, Aparajita, with the ride, I wish they'd won the match, which would have been even better. But even in reaching the final, I think they have empowered every young woman to believe, yes, I can. That is what sport does. Yes, I can. If Harmanpreet can do it, if Mithali can do it, even I can. Maybe it's as a doctor, maybe it's as a lawyer. But who are these men only to monopolize these positions? We can also do it. I think that was very important. So I'm glad that they did it, and they did it at the right time. This is the time when women in this country are truly coming of age. And I think it's great that we have these role models because these are not like they're not like Miss World. I'm sorry to say Miss World is about glamour. And all that is all very well, that's always existed. But in sports which were seen as male only, to have women break these barriers is the best thing that has happened in recent times. So I'm once again apologetic that I didn't use them in this book. I would have sold many more copies if I had a woman cricketer. But what to do, I finished the book in July. So that's my big mistake that I made. But I truly think that we should celebrate them even more than we are doing at the moment. And I really hope the BCCI has next year a women's IPL because then they will become even more glamorous. Now she's on the Vogue cover. The moment you have women's IPL, all of them will be on the Vogue cover. You can be sure of that.
So Mithali, what more do you expect for women's cricket? What, in terms of now, with the sponsorship coming in place, with individual contracts for all of you, what else do you expect more for women's cricket? To actually truly come to, not say at par with men's cricket, but at some level where we can say that the sport is finally sort of equalizing in the sense.
Well, I started my cricket from a school team. I represented a school team in '92. But I don't see the same kind of response from the schools, in today's schools, where you have girls' school team. I've played inter-schools, I've played league matches way back in '90s, but now I don't see those kind of formats anymore. So I believe if you have to increase the pool of players, if you want more girls to take up sport, school level is the right age for the girls to get into sport. And that can only happen if you have support from the school system, you have support from the parents, so that they give equal opportunities for the young girls. If they like sport, if they like cricket, there is a platform for them to enroll themselves into schools and see whether they're good enough to get into the next level. So right now we're still struggling to have, say, recently only we sat with BCCI and start to put in the India A toes because we realize that now it is important more than ever to have your second string ready. All this while it was only the first 15 to 20 girls, the cream of the team, the country playing, representing all through. But you need to have your second string, just like the men's. They have the India A2s, they have the Under 19 World Cup. They have all kinds of levels from under 11, under 15, under 14. But we don't get to see that levels in women because girls are not taking up sport at that age. They're not taking cricket at that age. By the time they take up cricket in 16 and they mature, they're already losing out on age. So I think that is one thing which is a need of an hour, is to get the schools to promote cricket, a team sport, because a team sport also improves one's personality. They learn team spirit, they learn unity, they learn management skills, how you interact with the other players. There are a whole lot of things that a team sport actually helps you in grow as a person. And when it comes to overall development of women's cricket, I think right now BCCI is started to take initiative in organizing tournaments like international series. Next year is going to be a very important and packed schedule for us. We tour South Africa. We have Australia coming in for a home series. Then we have even England coming down for a home series. So we are pretty much packed until until April. So things now started to roll for women's cricket. But I'm sure things will get much better. As he mentioned, it's just about another year or so that you will see an women's IPL.
You'd also like to be paid more, I'm sure.
Well, see, I have a different theory. I'm definitely we should be paid more, but I believe that we should be paid what we deserve, nothing less. And it is not right to expect more than what I deserve. Right now, women's cricket needs to be on television. We need to have people watching us play. That's how you attract viewership, TRPs, you attract brands. If the matches are not live, I'm sure most of you all wouldn't have known what the performance of the Indian team is. And that is the biggest difference between 2005 runners-up team and 2017 runners-up team. Today, people know us is because we were on television playing those innings or playing that match. Had it is not covered, I'm sure people wouldn't have even noticed what is happening in England. Maybe couple of reporters would write a small article in the newspaper, that it would be. So it's important you get women's cricket covered on television, so that's where things will start rolling. And maybe at a time when people follow women's cricket as much as men's cricket, we can then demand equal pay.
So, Rajdeep, the Women's World Cup. One thing that the World Cup managed to achieve was to make viewers believe that a women's sport and women's cricket can be as enjoyable a game like a men's game. So, what are your thoughts on that? Do you actually believe that that has happened, finally starting to happen? People are starting to believe that?
See, I think television plays a huge role in our lives. I think Mithali is absolutely right. In 2005 they reached the final, but nobody has really talked about it because you didn't have the visual experience. Now the moment you put it on television, they become celebrities. It's like Kabaddi again. Kabaddi is a very popular sport in the country for a long time. Wrestling, very popular. But the moment you now have professional wrestling, professional Kabaddi, and you put it on TV, then it is not just a popular sport, but it becomes a visible sport in your life. So I think putting it on television, the Women's World Cup, made a huge difference. Because it suddenly made, and I think it's packaged very well now. All sport is packaged very well. We could argue that, at the end of the day, are women as, can they play the sport as well as men? John McEnroe often used to say in tennis that I can defeat, that even the world number 1000 in men's will defeat the world number 1 in women's tennis. I don't know whether that's true, maybe true. But there are more people today who watch women's tennis as they watch, the same number of people watch women's tennis who watch men's tennis. I don't know whether cricket has reached that stage yet. So it's an incomplete revolution, which is why I'm saying have a women's IPL. Let's test it. Let's put the women playing at 6 o'clock and the men playing at 9 o'clock and go on till midnight. Then we will see how many people watch women's and how many watch men. And I'm sure you'll have more and more over time watching women because it's interesting. I find that the women are, they're more natural, they're more expressive. When they get out, they genuinely seem to feel depressed. The men take it as another match. I've got another match the next day. I sense the greater emotion when she was out, and when I met her last time, I said, how could you play that kind of a shot? But I could sense the disappointment. Her hand was in her, hands were on her head. That emotion, the expression is the same, whether you're men or women. And I just think that it's a very attractive way of projecting any sport to an audience. So I think putting it on television made a huge difference. And now in the age of sponsorship, I am convinced that you will have every World Cup shown live on television. They can't do without them. They need stars, and they are stars. So I think television will feed on them. The sport will feed on television. And I think you've transformed women's cricket in one generation. I have no doubt that India will win the next World Cup. I am certain that the next World Cup, India will, even if we don't win or not, we will be competing. We will be there in the top 4 now forever. That's the transformation. What Kapil Dev did, what Kapil Dev achieved in 1983 by winning the World Cup, Mithali Raj and team have done for women's cricket in 2017. That's the big transformation. He did it in the age of color TV. He did it in the age of color TV. We were all getting that for the first time, color had come on our television sets. They have done it in the age of satellite TV, where there are 400 news channels. That is why all those cameramen come. It's not just in Delhi. She goes to Hyderabad. In Andhra Pradesh, there are 27 news channels. 27 Telugu news channels. For them, she's a huge star. Each of them need a slice of Mitali Raj. So that's the way the sport is today. That's what modern television has done.
On that note, I'd like to thank all of you, and also like to thank you on a lovely book. I had the pleasure of reading it over a course of a week, and I loved every chapter of it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mithali.
very
Thank you,
Rajita.
Veda.